Hello, friends, and welcome to Rise Up in Real Estate, where we are on a quest. We are looking for the extra in the ordinary. And I'm Tad Fulford, and I will be your host on this journey where we will take an honest look at what makes ordinary people extraordinary. Exactly how can we be extra in our personal and our professional lives? In this season of the Rise Up in Real Estate adventure, there will be a monthly rhythm, meaning each month we will have 4 unique episodes. In one episode, we'll tackle a pressing current real estate industry thought. In another, we will chat with a local difference maker in the real estate space. For our 3rd episode, we will host a respected national thought leader. And finally, we will have a 4th bonus and surprise episode. And in each episode, we will be digging into not only what those people think, but who those people are. Along the way, it's my hope that you'll laugh some, you'll be challenged some, you will get inspired some, and if we are lucky, maybe even figure out a way or two you can rise up in your own life and be the best human that you can be. So the challenge is, let's all rise up. Hello, Rise Up Nation. We're here for another episode of Rise Up in Real Estate, and I've got a really fun one for you today. I think you'll enjoy this because I have an attorney with a personality on our show, and it's going to be fun to talk to my new friend. And I've told you this before in introductions. Sometimes I know my guests very well. Other times I know my guests not at all. And this is kind of in the middle. I want to introduce my guest today and find out a little bit more about Nathan. Nathan, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and where you work and why we're meeting today together. Nathan, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Tad. It's so great to be here. I'm a regular listener of your podcast, and I love its mission. I love that you're trying to help all of us rise up. So I'm really glad to be here. Thank you. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a real estate attorney, and I guess the reason that we're speaking today is because I know this podcast, at least sort of tangentially, relates to real estate. It's mainly about human beings and what we as people are up to and kind of what we've overcome in our lives. But it certainly does center in some way around real estate, and that's what I do every day. So I guess that's why we're linked up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if I can, I'm going to say your last name, although I will admit that it doesn't sound like it's spelled to me. Like is it Galbreath?
I pronounce it Galbreath.
Galbreath. Okay, well it's not spelled like it sounds because Tad says it wrong, that often happens. So Galbreath, and the name of your firm is?
Nelson and Galbreath.
Okay, and you are in what markets?
Well, we serve clients throughout South Carolina. So in around the Grand Strand area, we basically cover everything from Charleston, south of Charleston, all the way up through Wilmington, North Carolina. But central to the Grand Strand area, we have an office in Surfside and then one in downtown. We're in the Columbia market, in the upstate, in Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, Greer, and then also over, as I mentioned, in North Carolina, we're in Wilmington, and then we have an office in Atlanta, Georgia as well.
Awesome. So you guys are we have 6 locations. So you guys have a lot going on like we do, a lot of different, we like to call it one office with 6 locations because we're trying to keep the common, mission and core values amongst all of them. But you have a lot of moving parts. Tell me a little bit, though. I want to find out who Nathan is before, like, where were you born and where did you go to high school and college? Tell me a little bit about the background of Nathan.
Yes, well, kind of far from the coast. I was born in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm a bicentennial baby, so I was born in 1976. And I was the son of an elementary school teacher. My mom was a teacher for her entire career, retired as a teacher, and was the son of a mirror salesman, which you're probably wondering, what is that?
Yeah.
But my father he worked for a company that was based out of Chicago, and he would travel around to the rural parts of West Virginia and Kentucky selling truck mirrors, like the kind of mirrors that you see on the side of an 18-wheeler, big rectangular mirrors you see that outside of the driver's side window and the passenger window.
Yeah.
And so that's what he did. So as I was growing up as a kid, we had a garage that was detached back behind our house, and it was filled with boxes which were full of truck mirrors.
Holy cow. So now you said a couple things I got to relate to. Lexington, Kentucky. My wife, Mandy, has got family from Kentucky as well. So that's the bluegrass state, if I'm saying that correctly. Did you lived there your whole childhood all the way through high school? Did you go to college there, or did you go off to college?
Yeah, I was in Kentucky my entire childhood. We did move to the northern part of the state when I was 11, so kind of outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, but still on the south side of the Ohio River. So in the northern part of Kentucky, some people have heard of Newport or Covington.
Okay.
I was in that area. But I came down to South Carolina for college and had a lot of family in the state, and that's how I found my way to South Carolina.
Oh, awesome. Which college did you go to?
I went to Furman.
Oh, nice. The Purple Paladins.
Yes. It's really nice being a Paladin because for those who live in South Carolina, there's a huge rivalry between the Gamecocks and the Clemson Tigers. And you kind of have to choose sides. You're either one or the other. But when you go to Furman, it's sort of like being from Switzerland. You don't have to take a side. You can just be everybody's friend.
I love that. Just not to play on words for the title of our podcast, but I found that Furman kind of rises over that rivalry. I love that. I had a very good friend of mine in high school who was a wide receiver on our football team, and he was one of the first people I ever knew that went to college to play a sport that got a scholarship, and he played wide receiver at Furman. So I started liking them, and I actually have friends over the years that have gone there, even though I'm from North Carolina. So that's a pretty neat story. And your dad, I love the story of your dad selling truck mirrors, because Mandy and I were talking about something yesterday. I'm trying to think what it was, but that seems like a product that once you find a buyer for it, you've got a buyer for it. Like it's so unique. Like you can't use those on anything else, right? So you go find the truck drivers and you sell them those mirrors. How in the world did you get into that business? And did he teach it to you? I mean, what was it?
Some folks may be familiar with Southern Kentucky, which is a very impoverished area between the Kentucky-Tennessee border.
Okay.
It's kind of known generally as Appalachia.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of my parents came out of that area and ended up in Lexington because they traveled north to go to the University of Kentucky. And so my dad came from a very humble rural background. And after college, and I think even during college, he got a job at a trucking facility where they were just moving goods in and out. And so he was kind of already around that world, and I think found his way into this sales job.
That's pretty neat. Did you have brothers and sisters?
I did. I have two sisters, both younger. And they're both self-employed. One of them lives in Miami, Florida, and the other lives up in northern Kentucky, where I spent the second half of my childhood.
Okay, great. And now you were cruising along in Kentucky, and you decided to come to, because you had family in South Carolina, you're going to come to college, you're going to come to the University down at Furman. And when did it cross through your mind, I think I'm going to be an attorney?
Oh, that actually started really early on.
Oh, did it?
Okay. Yes. I don't know if any of your kids are kind of argumentative, but I think as a youth, I must have always had a lot of good reasons why it was okay to do the opposite thing that my parents were telling me to do. And so I grew up with them constantly telling me, you should be a lawyer. And I guess somewhere along the way that got drilled into my head. That's
funny. You just told me that apparently Hazel, our 5-year-old, is going to be a lawyer. So congratulations. And I'm not offending you by saying attorney. Am I? Am I supposed to call you a lawyer or an attorney, or does it matter?
Either one's perfectly fine.
Okay. I didn't know if I was saying an improper designation or not. So where did you go to law school?
So law school, I went to Tulane down in New Orleans.
Okay.
Which is an interesting story in and of itself, kind of looking around for where to go to law school. Like anybody trying to figure out where to go to school, there's all these different factors. You're trying to find some place that's the right size, of what you're looking for, maybe has the right education, but you're also looking for some kind of a connection. And when I would go, I mentioned earlier that my grandparents were from that Appalachian area. When I would go down and visit them as a very young kid, I grew up hearing stories about when my grandfather was in the Navy during World War II. And he was actually stationed down in New Orleans. And they had these amazing, colorful stories about walking out on the street in front of their house and seeing these funeral processions going by with jazz music playing and people carrying caskets over their head and dancers and people wailing, and just how good the food was and how friendly the people were. And so I had this image of New Orleans in my mind from an early age about just being a special, unique place. And so Tulane was one of the places that I applied to, and the financial structure and the school and everything else worked out. So that's where I ended up going.
That is so interesting. Now, I don't know how many of our listeners, like he said a minute ago, we're in coastal South Carolina. We've got listeners from everywhere. And I'm in real estate. This is an affiliated business relationship that we have with Nathan's firm. But I've met Nathan a handful of times at different events, and I felt like he was a pretty deep individual. Like he just, it's not like I'm deep, but I come across as like a happy-go-lucky, like a Labrador kind of. But this guy, when you meet him, he just seems like there's something going on underneath the surface. To hear you tell that story, Nathan, just now, if I can say this, family's very important to you. Is that true?
Absolutely.
And stories about, like, even when I won't go into it now, but he's got a beautiful painting on his wall, and he told me the story about it before. Do you like to read? Are you a reader? Do you study a lot? Like, tell me a little bit about you, like off the record. Who are you?
Yeah, I am a reader. I read voraciously whenever I can. I'm sure, like all of us, sometimes our busy lives get in the way, but that's certainly one way that I like to wrap up every day. Is once I've kissed all the kids goodnight and I go to lay down in bed and it's time to get the mind calm and ready to go to sleep, I like to read for 20, 30 minutes or as long as I can before my eyes start getting droopy.
Yeah, well, my listeners that listen to this podcast every week, if somebody reads 20 or 30 minutes a day, they are a voracious reader. Most people, if they read on a summer vacation, they think they're a reader. Like they go to the beach for a week and they take a couple of books, and it's usually the same books every year. But you see, what's your favorite thing to read, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like, I kind of toggle back and forth. I read a lot of books that are about business and succeeding in business. I read a lot of books that are about personal improvement, but I'd say those are kind of the more academic type books. Right. I also like history, but probably my favorite thing to read is just a really good, well-written novel. Yeah. My wife was an AP English teacher.
Okay.
So we always have kind of an unlimited supply of really good literature in our house because she's kind of the gatekeeper. If it's not really good literature, it doesn't make it through the front door.
Nice.
And she reads at a rate of about 10 books for every one I read. And so I'll just pick my favorite out of the last 10 she's read, and I know I've got a good one.
That's pretty cool. I should have met your wife a long time ago. I was not very good reader, and I was not very good in that whole area. I was very good at math, very good at science, but I struggled to read. And still today, Audible was the greatest invention of all time for me. Like, I don't know of sitting down holding a book unless it's how to fix something, because I'm terrible at that also. So tell me, you're married. How many children?
Got 3 kids. Got 2 girls and a boy.
How old are they?
My girls are 17 and 15, and my son is just about to turn 13.
Oh, man. So you seem so mild-mannered and calm, but you can't have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old daughter and not be losing your mind at some point. Is that true?
Well, there's definitely some truth to that, but I have to brag on my girls a little bit and say that they're really sweet girls. They tend to do the kind of things that don't stress a parent out too much. So they're not responsible for most of these gray hairs that probably came from work.
No, that's good. So they're just like their mother is what you're saying.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Where do they go to school? Do you mind saying that?
No, I'll just say they go to public high school.
Okay.
And they're both very involved there, good students.
Awesome.
And my son goes to a private school, and they're all into sports, probably like all of our kids.
Yeah.
The girls, interestingly, are really into cycling, which not a lot of kids are.
Yeah.
One of them is really into road biking, and the other one's really into mountain biking. And a lot of people, even kind of locally here in the Grand Strand area, don't know that there's a tremendous mountain biking resource kind of right in the middle of town called the Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
right in the middle of Carolina Forest.
Right.
That's interesting. When I moved here, you're much younger than me, but when I moved here in 2001 or something, believe it or not, I used to ride long distance bicycling back when I was half my size now, but I would ride my road bike on Carolina Forest Boulevard every day.
That's death defying these days.
You wouldn't do that now. I mean, you wouldn't live through that now. But back then, there was nothing. There was no 31. All there was at the front of Carolina Forest was a McDonald's. When I was here, there was none of that other plaza and all that stuff. And you have an office over in that area now off of Grissom Parkway. I know aren't you building a location over there?
We are. We're in the process of building out an office on Oleander Drive.
Yeah.
So right there at the end of 31.
Okay, I'm inclined to ask you this. I don't talk business that much, but I don't know why today I'm driven to ask you this question. Tell me what I'm going to ask you a few more personal ones in a few minutes, but tell me what you feel like has led to your business success. You guys are, I've met a lot of people in this business, and I'm refreshed by your approach and your team's involvement with our group so far. But what do you think is important about business success? What's led to your success in our market?
Well, I think the mission of our law firm, and I'll back up and say the only thing that we do is real estate closings. We do real estate closings and estate planning. But the vast majority of what our firm does is close real estate deals, which for your listeners that maybe don't live in a state where attorneys do those closings, that is something that it's true in a lot of the southeastern states. Is when you go to buy or sell a house, you do it at an attorney's office. So that's what we do. And you're very kind to say that we're successful, but I would say that any success that we've experienced is directly traceable to the mission of our company.
Okay.
And the thing that we care about the most is just improving the lives of people and of the communities where we're located. So that is our firm's mission, and we do that through real estate closings. And that's why I love the theme of your podcast, Rise Up, so much, because that's the way we see every transaction and every client we come into contact with, is that it's an opportunity to help that person rise up. And to do it at a time that can be stressful, that can be confusing, where there's maybe a frightening amount of money involved, because most people aren't spending this type of money every day. They're spending it on maybe their first home or a new home. And so our mission is to try to help them rise up during that time. And it really, I think people feel that. They feel that that's genuine care coming from every person that works at our company, and they tell their friends and they tell their colleagues. And so I'd say to the extent we've enjoyed any success, it's because of that.
That's great. So that's literally a written mission of your firm.
It is. It's even on the back of our firm t-shirts.
And is it improve the lives of the people that you come in contact with, or what was it? Say what it is again.
Yeah, to try to say it really succinctly, we just say to improve lives through real estate closings.
Okay. That's amazing. If you live or own property along the coast of South Carolina, you probably need insurance. We Insure Advocates is a locally owned independent agency with industry-leading service support. Our team of customer-centric agents can explain your coverage options and help you craft an insurance program that fits your needs and budget. Data-driven for better value, people-led for better service. That's the difference of we. For all of your property insurance needs, please find us at weinsureadvocates.com or call us at 843-491-6990. let me peel back the onion for a second. Who came up with the idea, or maybe all, I know not all real estate offices have a mission. Let's just say that. And I don't know that whether law firms do or not, but if they don't, or even if they do, who brought that to the table? When did that all happen, that you guys needed to have a mission and you were passionate about this one thing and you started leading your people that way? Where did that come from?
Well, I think like any business, there's always sort of a growth trajectory that happens. And whatever you're doing, whether it's real estate or law or anything else, you start out and you're oftentimes a one-person show. And then maybe you turn into 2 and then 5 and then 10. And in the beginning, you're just trying to figure out the mechanics of how to even do this thing that you're doing. And then you start to become good at it. And when you reach a certain level where you've been doing it for a while, and I think this truly applies to anything that anybody does out there, that you sort of reach a point where you ask yourself, why am I doing this? There's got to be more to life than just trying to make a dollar. And so you kind of step back and you look at your life and you look at the work that you're doing and you say, there's a bigger picture out here. And we only have so many years on this planet to do what we're doing. Let's make them count. And so we've kind of sat down as a group collectively as a law firm, and we really talked to everybody at every level of the firm and every kind of different job that's done here. And we said, what's important to all of us? What gets us up in the morning? And we got a lot of really positive, good answers. Things like first-time home buyers. We love first-time home buyers because just the smile and the excitement on people's faces when they're able to buy that first home, it's unparalleled. I mean, it's almost like when you have your first child or something like that, because it's just such a big milestone in life for people. And so that was a big one. And it's kind of the more we got other good answers like that and distilled it down, it really became that we like doing what we do because we're able to be a part and share and even help people in these really special moments in their life.
That's amazing. And I hadn't heard it described that way before, but that's how our story unfolded. At first, we were just doing what we needed to do to get this business going. And then over time, you realize that's not fulfilling. And then you add the fulfilling element of the why. I loved the way you explained that as a progression. And it was collaborative. You went to the whole firm and asked those questions. Tell me about this is off the cuff too, as everything is on Rise Up in Real Estate. Tell me about the staying power of your group. Like, how does that, we call it retention with your staff and your group. I don't even know what you call it, the group of people that work at your firm. I'm sure when they built into that helps them stick around. Is that right?
I think so. I really do, because we all want to be a part of something, and we all want to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. And the mission of the thing that we're doing needs to be important. It needs to matter. So I absolutely think that's real. To your point, just a few months ago, we had a big celebration where we celebrated one of our employees who had just finished her 40th year at our firm. So that was a pretty exciting moment. A lot of tears and a lot of hugs. That's a big deal.
That is a huge deal. That says a ton, in my opinion. It says a ton about the place that they are. People don't stay anywhere long these days. My dad, he retired from IBM. He worked there 40 years, got the gold watch, was sent on his way. But these days, people don't have retention power. They don't stay. If they don't like it, they leave. They go find something else. But what you've done is connected them to a higher calling. They might not like the mission and then they could leave. But if they like the mission and you built it by letting them buy in and create it as a group, how smart is that? I mean, I'm hoping our listeners are picking up on these little things that they can do on their teams or in their own, even with their clients. Like, I think real estate agents could have their client base could have a purpose. Maybe they give to a charity every year with some of the funds or something like that. But wow, how smart that is. I love that. I can tell that you and we've been on there 20 minutes, and I can tell that you and I are like philosophy nerds. Like, what goes on behind the scenes in my mind is so much more important than what goes on in front. we need to have lunch because I bet we could dig really deep on all of this stuff. If you don't mind, let's go to lunch sometime really soon. I think it'd be fun.
I would enjoy that
because I'm sure I could learn something from what y'all are doing. So tell me a little bit more personal stuff. Like, I want to know, I ask all of my guests on here, most people are embarrassed to talk about themselves, which I respect because that's called humility. Not everybody is humble that's been on my show, but most everybody is. Well, I ask everybody, what's their superpower? Like if you could boil Nathan down to one thing that you do that maybe, I don't know how you view life yet because we don't know each other that well, but like my way I look at it is you have a purpose. Like everybody was created for something. If you could only do that one thing, I call it your superpower. What is that about you? Do you know? Have you discovered that yet? I bet you have.
Well, I don't know if, like you said, it's always a little uncomfortable talking about yourself, especially in a context of having a superpower. But something that people tell me often that they appreciate is my sense of calm, which might be the polar opposite of what we all think of as a superpower. I think we think of people flying through the air or being able to light things on fire. But for me, especially in the real estate industry where there's a lot of moving pieces, there can be a lot of stress sometimes, but to be able to come in and bring a sense of calm, and even in the thick of a situation where there are a lot of things at stake and maybe there's time pressures and that sort of thing, to be able to remain very calm, analyze the situation, have empathy for the people who are there, and understand kind of what it is that they need and how to help them. I'd say to the extent I have a superpower, that would be it.
Yeah. What a great human this guy is that he doesn't want to put a label on it. Right. I like that. Most of my guests have been the same way. The first couple of times I met you, Nathan, I'll be honest, I was like, when you came to a recharge and you were in the back of the room, I was like, is he awake? Because you are like super calm. Like you are just, it doesn't seem like anything ruffles your feathers. And I know things do. We all have that moment. But I don't want to make you seem superhuman, even though I just that's a superpower. I can't think of something that our listeners would appreciate more than a real estate attorney that thinks their superpower is remaining calm in all circumstances. So thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine. You might want to put that on your business card. I mean, that is a great calling card for you if that's how you are in transactional business, and I know you are. So I appreciate that. This is going to be a good one too when I ask you this question, because you say you're a voracious reader, but I always ask all my guests, is there a book or two? And I wouldn't mind if you give us a fiction and nonfiction. I don't mind that. If you throw a great novel or author out there, I'll put the link in the show notes, as well as a link to your company and all that. Tell me a book or two that makes a difference or has made a difference to you in business or personal.
Yeah, well, I'll just talk about one.
Okay.
One of my favorite books to recommend is a book called Creating Magic. You may have heard of it. It's by a gentleman named Lee Cockrell. And Lee used to be a higher up at the Disney Corporation down in Florida. And what I really like about this book is Disney's been in the news quite a bit lately, and it's almost become a political topic to even bring up the company's name. But I think what we can all agree is if you've ever been there, it's somewhat of a rite of passage to take your young kids, if you have the means and you can throw everybody in the minivan and make the drive to Florida, or I guess if you're on the western side of the United States, drive to California, and take your kids when they're small to Disney World or Disneyland. And when you go there, despite you're there with, I don't know, thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people all at the same time, you're going through the park, you somehow walk out of there at the end of your experience feeling like it was special and that the entire experience was tailored just around you. And in this book, Creating Magic, what I like about it so much is that Lee Cockrell talks about how that's not an accident. It's extremely deliberate, and that it's something that each of us can do in our daily lives, no matter what we're doing. If we're a stay-at-home mom, if we're a real estate attorney, if we're a brokerage at a real estate company or an agent, whatever we do, or a lender, you can create magic just like Disney does. And I'll give one example from the book. He talks a lot about these things that he calls take 5 moments. And that is all of the staff at Disney is trained to every day at least find 2 or 3 opportunities to pick some individual that's walking through the park and make a really memorable moment for them. It might be that a 3-year-old dropped their ice cream cone and they come scoop them up. They walk them back to the window and get them another free ice cream cone. It could be stopping, taking photos. There's a lot of different ways that they do it. But the whole idea is just to create these special moments that make people feel good and that make an experience memorable. And so it really had an impact on me. And I know in our business, everything from how we set up our offices to how we try to interact with our clients, the whole goal is to make the experience truly wonderful and beautiful and memorable in a very good way. And we also look for any opportunity that we can to have those special moments with clients when they're in our offices or we're interacting with them on the phone or other places.
That's amazing. No one's brought that book to my attention on this show, so I appreciate you doing that. And a couple things. I'm so glad that if you do have a soft serve ice cream machine in your lobby, that if I drop my cone, somebody will help me with that because I'm an ice cream lover, as you can probably tell. Have you followed Savannah Bananas at all? Do you know
I have not.
So there's a minor league baseball team in Savannah, Georgia called the Savannah Bananas. And you need to look them up and start following them on social media and even read their story. It's really amazing what they do. And they've taken what you and I try to do on a daily basis at our companies to a whole nother level. Disney-ish, like if you could compare it. They're a terrible baseball team, but they're sold out for 5 years running because of the show that they put on at their games.
Oh, that's fabulous.
You do yourself. This is what will happen. I read a story about them. The next day I bought their hat and their jersey, and I've never been to the game before. Never even been down there. It's such an inspiring story, but I'm excited. I'm sitting here talking to you. You're a real estate attorney doing real estate closings, and you're talking like you work at Disneyland and Disney World. And I love that. And I hope our listeners will give you the chance to show them that experience. That's what my goal is for you today, is that they'll give you that shot. Last question. And then I know you got to go be some famous guy on TV or something. What is it that you do every day, if you do something on a regular basis, that helps you rise up, like above the mediocrity of the rest of the world? Is there something in your schedule that you can share with us that maybe we can pick up on?
I'd be glad to. We talked about reading earlier, and probably people have heard leaders or readers. So I definitely think trying to read or listen to something like this Rise Up podcast every day is a great way to rise up. But the other thing I think is maybe one of the most important things you can do is, and this may sound silly, but is some sort of physical exercise every day. And I think if you can do it outside, all the better. There's a lot of research that shows that just being out of doors, all these benefits that it has, both for your physical and mental health. But 7 days a week, in the mornings when my feet hit the floor, when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is throw on some tennis shoes, head outside and either walk or run or ride a bicycle or do something to move around, hopefully for about 30 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. And just the mental and physical benefits to that, I really feel like permeate throughout your entire life, everything that you do, your work, your family relationships, your work relationships. It's a great way to reduce stress. It's time where you can have some mental focus to think about what's going on in your life. And then you've got just the added health benefits of moving around. So I would say that's it.
That's cool. I like most people when they talk about running, health benefits number one. But for you explained the other benefits. There's periphery benefits of being outdoors and getting your body moving in that way. So I appreciate that. 7 days a week too, folks. Did you hear that? Not 3, and then the other 4, you're going backwards. Do it 7 days a week. Just do something. I appreciate that very much. Tell us how our listeners can contact you if they need to. I'm going to add your contact information in the show notes, but spell your name for us, the name of the firm, and then maybe the number one place they can connect with you if they want to.
Thank you. Yeah, well, you can read we have a website, of course. It's Nelson, Nelson, Galbreath, GALBREATH.com. And on that website, of course, all of our contact information, locations of our offices and that sort of thing. And I think there's also on our website, it's pretty clear how if you've got a contract, if you're an agent and you're representing a buyer or seller and you would like for us to help you with that transaction, or your buyer clients or seller clients would, there's emails on there where you can send it directly to us. and even pay your earnest money on our website.
Very good. Excellent. Nathan, you've been a treat to have on the show. I know you've got an appointment to run to. Thank you for being open. I think there's going to be another podcast in our future. If you'll come back on the show, I'll dig a little bit deeper on a couple of things that I've got in my mind. I took some notes. But thanks for being who you are. Listeners, I hope you'll give them a shot. Good human beings doing good work in our market. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
Tad, thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this. It's such a help for our community.
Yep. Rise Up Nation. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you next episode. Well, hey, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Rise Up in Real Estate. If you liked hanging out with us today, please find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Rise Up in Real Estate. Also, follow us right now on your favorite podcast host to hear more episodes. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. And until next time, let's do each other a favor and all help each other rise up.